Good day, it's March 17, 2023. As former President Donald Trump campaigns in Iowa ahead of the 2024 presidential primary, he is facing worsening legal troubles. I'm Esmeralda Padilla-Gould and welcome to The Pulse.
And I'm Sam Buban. As Emmy continues this week's stories that dominates the headlines.
Donald Trump is now facing the prospect of being indicted in New York State over campaign finance violation in the case of payoff made to porn star Stormy Daniels. This case that went into hibernation during the 2022 campaign season was resurrected by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg in 2022 after former Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr. refused to prosecute the former president. An indication that a criminal indictment is looming, according to multiple media outlets. The former president was given an invitation to appear for questioning before a criminal grand jury in Manhattan. The criminal alleged violations stem from the so-called hush money payment to silence the porn star Stormy Daniels from talking about it in the media during the 2016 campaign of Trump for the presidency, for which the said money came from the campaign money that is regulated by law under the rules of the Federal Election Commission, not to be used for personal expense and non-campaign related expense. The story gained traction when his former lawyer and enforcer, lawyer Michael Cohen, testified that he received reimbursement of the money she paid Stormy Daniels, $130,000, from Trump's campaign funds. That's what made the payment criminal in nature. For those who are not familiar of the term hush money, it means money paid to someone in exchange of not speaking of something damaging in nature. Money that will make you hush or be quiet. There are two significant cases that are criminal that are likely to hinder Trump in the 2024 presidential run that are both criminal in nature. One is the Manhattan District Attorney investigation on the hush money payment, and the second is the criminal violation of election laws in Georgia that has been investigated by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis over Trump's phone call to Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, allegedly to influence the Georgia Secretary of State to change the result in Trump's favor. That investigation is almost wrapped up, and it's just waiting for a possible return of indictment by the regular grand jury in Fulton County, Georgia. And there are dozens of civil cases Trump is facing, the big one of which is the lawsuit by New York Attorney General Letitia James that is seeking a state court $250 million in civil penalties and barring the Trump family from ever operating a company in the state of New York.
And in another setback for Trump and his legal team, the lawsuit of writer E. Jean Carroll, who wrote a book and excerpted in 2019 a part of her book in New York Magazine that Trump raped her in 1990s in a dressing room at Bergdorf Goodman, a designer brand distributor. After the article in New York Magazine was published, Donald Trump denied the allegation, saying, "I've never met this person in my life, and Carol is not my type, and that the incident never happened." It was Trump's reaction in November 2019 all over the media that was the basis of the defamation lawsuit, that she said caused her emotional pain and suffering in the hands of the man who raped her. E. Jean Carroll is asking for unspecified damages in the defamation lawsuit. It was scheduled to go on trial on February 6 last month, but Trump's legal team made an attempt to delay the trial, telling the judge that they are thinly spread over the so many lawsuits and investigations Trump is facing. But U.S. District Judge Lewis Kaplan, according to several Legal Watch blogs, called for an emergency meeting after the lawyer of E. Jean Carroll alerted Judge Kaplan about a multiple court filings by Trump legal team asking for delay of trial and the judge saw it as a delaying tactic in relation to reaching the case during the campaign season, which the former president cannot be tried until the election is over. Judge Kaplan was furious and told the Trump lawyers that the case will go forward and threatened to sanction the Trump legal team if they try to delay the case again. Judge Kaplan now set the trial for April 10th, 2023 at the Southern District of New York. The judge also indicated he is strongly considering the use of anonymous jury to the trial. An anonymous jury is a rare measure a judge can do when there is an extraordinary circumstances where the safety of jurors are at stake. An anonymous jury, I should say, is where the public will never know the names, addresses, and other personal information of those who sit in the jury box for that trial. It is likely to protect the jurors from retribution of these violent MAGA extremists. Such anonymous jury has been used by judges in some high-profile cases to protect the jurors from retaliation.
In the state of Nevada scene, the Assembly Speaker Pro Tem Daniel Monroe Moreno, who also chaired the Assembly's Budget Committee, announced after a brief meeting of the committee that an amendment to Assembly Bill 268, AB 268, which is bipartisan bill and backed by Governor Joe Lombardo, is already being sent to the Assembly floor for a vote. AB 268 amendment will exclude 7,700 employees in the Nevada system of higher education from getting a pair of $500. Of these state employees in the state university and community colleges system, of the 7,700 employees, roughly 4,900 are in state-funded employees are traditionally subject to state employee compensation boost, such as cost of living adjustment raises. The remainder 2,800 are funded by grants or other self-supporting funds. The bill is also an amendment to the $2,000 annual bonuses that the governor promised during the State of the State. Such bonus to employees of the executive branch to be paid quarterly, but the amendment brings it down to $1,000 and to be paid twice within each fiscal year of $500. And that such bonuses is no longer for the entire state employees in the state government.
The Nevada chapter of the National Federation of Filipino-American Associations, NAFA for short, and in cooperation with Filipino-American Chamber of Commerce of Greater Nevada, has also celebrated the International Women's Week. One of the highlights of the event was to honor Filipino-American women who had stand out in the service and other form of contribution to the Fil-Am community in Nevada. Gloria Kawili, who is chair of events for NAFA, and Joel Enriquez, president of the said Chamber of Commerce, spearheaded the event that took place on March 12, 2023, which was attended by hundreds of Fil-Am community leaders and members.
Among the awardees and honorees at that event were Millie Cada, the entrepreneur of Cafe de Manila, registered nurse and photojournalist Julie Ann Torre-Moro, Ana Ladao, an insurance executive, Marilyn Ante of the Fil-Ams Civic Action International, Kate Recto, who was the founder and president of Kate's Coffee. The Filipiniana Dance Company of Nevada was also awarded. Also, Mila Paglinawan of CMC Boutique, who seemed to be the official Barong Tagalog dresser of Fil-Am in Las Vegas, was also an awardee. And two of enduring Filipinas in Las Vegas were honored posthumously, like Lani Andal, who was an icon in Las Vegas entertainment scene as a recording artist and cabaret singer, and noted philanthropist and community involved and always loved by the Fil-Am community, Fatima Pat Magallanes. Pat was president and CEO of Pure Medical Equipment at the time of her death on February 8, 2023. Pat's husband is our FilAmTV host, Mr. Sam Buban. All the awardees were also honored with the letters of commendation from Congresswoman Dina Titus and Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo.
Thank you, Emmy, for mentioning that. Now, are banks in trouble like in 2008 during the real estate meltdown? The answer is not really. The people in this country right now are showing some signs of panic, and panic usually results in a bank run. But don't you all be acting hastily, because the situation is quite different from the big bank failures of 2008. The subject of these recent tremors in Wall Street in the banking sector was the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, which closed their doors last Friday, March 10th, after the federal regulators took over the bank to prevent the bank from further meltdown. According to Ramisha Maroof of CNN, a business journalist, the Silicon Valley Bank's stunning collapse became the second largest bank failure in U.S. history. In December 2022 reporting, the bank had $209 billion in total assets and $175.4 billion in deposits. Multiple media outlets are reporting that the U.S. Department of Treasury and the White House took extraordinary effort by Sunday to extend a federal backstop to all of Silicon Valley Bank's deposit. We want our viewers not to panic. This failure of Silicon Valley Bank is not a systemic problem, but was specific to Silicon Valley Bank in the nature of how they operated and the nature of their transactions. Panic due to being less informed will cause a bank run where almost all depositors run to the bank to get all their money. That kind of move only worsens the situation and get the cash situation of the bank out of control. Our viewers should be informed that bank deposits of up to $250,000 or less are insured by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or FDIC. When a bank collapses, the government immediately takes over the cash and other assets of the bank to secure the depositors. But depositors can already file claim and be paid by a receiver bank created by the federal government to pay the claims. For example, access to cash by the depositors at Silicon Valley Bank will be made available through the receiver bank, as the FDIC created the Deposit Insurance Bank of Santa Clara. This was according to a report by Ellen Chang in The Street, a financial news website. This failure at Silicon Valley Bank has shaken regional banks and other small banks around the country. So, what would you do if you have such money that are sitting in the bank? Let's say you have $400,000 or $1 million. If it's me, and which I'm not, I would spread these money in different banks with a maximum of only $250,000 in each bank. That's the limit of how much is insured. So, if you have $1 million, spread it among 4 different banks, and not just 4 different branches of the same bank, but really different banking entity. That's me, and I'm not a financial expert or finance expert, just an ordinary worker who has a family to think of. When we come back, we will be joined by our guest today on our show, Jessica Guerra of the AAPI Forward, and Amanda Khan of the AAPI Dems. These 2 young ladies represents the Asian, American, and Pacific Islanders in Clark County, Nevada. So stay tuned. Welcome back to The Pulse. With us here at the studio are 2 young ladies from the Asian American and Pacific Islander organization here in Clark County. And we have Amanda Khan of the AAPI Democrats, also known as AAPI Dems, and Jessica Guerra, who is also the secretary of the AAPI Forward. So welcome to the polls. Thank you for joining us here today at the studio.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, okay, this question, I think I will direct this particular question to Amanda. And had there been an increase in voter registration in the 2022 elections for the AAPI?
Yes, there has been, and with the implementation in 2018 of automatic voter registration, us as a caucus, that's not what we primarily focused on in the 2022 elections. We primarily focused on getting out the vote and engaging young API voting bloc and, of course, our API community. But there has been an increase in voter registration, and the data shows that continuously API people are showing up to vote in presidential elections and off-year elections.
That's good to know. Is Nevada one of the largest AAPI in terms of population in the 50 states? Do we have where do we rank in the AAPI, let's say population-wise, rather than voter registration? Where do we stand here in Nevada?
I don't know where we are in terms of the highest population in the country, but I will say in the country and in Nevada, the API community is a growing population, the fastest growing population. So, and in terms of the AAPI community here in Nevada, I forget the data.
So if I may, I might just piggyback on that question. Okay. So we are not we don't have the largest AAPI population across the country. I think states like California and New York actually kind of have us beat. Texas also has a really large AAPI population, but I don't know where we fall ranking-wise. However, a lot of the data is showing that the AAPI population in Nevada is the fastest growing AAPI population in the country. Mm-hmm. So that's why there's a lot of focus. When it comes to the AAPI community, there's a lot of focus on Nevada because of the exponential growth compared to the rest of the country.
Okay. Yeah, I could imagine. I heard from one statistic that Hawaii has the #1 concentration of AAPI and California's #2. So, but I was, I also heard that one of the fastest growing area where one of the areas where the number of AAPI are growing is here in Nevada. So I will direct this question to Jessica. What is the AAPI community and lead organizations related to AAPI are doing in preparation for the 2024 election?
Well, I can't speak on behalf of every organization. I can speak on what AAPI Forward is doing, and kind of as an outside observer what I think other people are doing, but I can't really specifically say what they are not doing. Yes. As far as AAPI Forward is concerned, a lot of what we've been doing is trying to ensure that we're continuously engaging our community, make sure that they are educated, and also because AAPI Forward's primary focus is supporting candidates who are either AAPI or support AAPI policies in the AAPI community. We've released a large list of endorsees this past election, and we also kind of want to ensure that our endorsees are following through on the vision that they presented us. So we are paying attention essentially that the current candidates that are now our elected officials are also following through with the essentially the promises or the representations that they made to the AAPI community during the 2022 election.
It's good to know.
And can I just
Yes, you can add to
jump in? Yeah. So at the caucus, the API Dems caucus, we're really focused on engaging young API voters. This is a fast-growing voting bloc, and it's a lot of power in this voting bloc. So that is what, and it's like we're really grateful to be working, hand in hand with AAPI Forward, because as they're working to elect AAPI candidates and support AAPI candidates who are running, we're working to engage our community so that we can also vote for API candidates and elected officials.
Is there, do you see potentials of more AAPI members running in the 2024 election? Any one of you or both of you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the number of AAPI candidates doubled in the last election. It was, like it started from 5 to about 10, right? It doesn't seem like a lot, but that is a lot of participation and putting themselves out there to run, right? So I personally foresee a lot of AAPI candidates also, like the number increasing during the next election.
Yeah, I mean, we already saw it like with the presidential elections, right? A number of API candidates ran for office for the highest, elected position, and it's like we're definitely seeing it trend as it goes to local. We really hope to see more county level positions for API candidates running and being elected to those positions as well. But I mean, why not? Like I said, we have a lot of power. And like we mentioned earlier, we're one of the fastest growing demographics, so it makes sense to have API representatives representing our community.
What can the AAPI Dems or the AAPI Forward do to encourage more Filipino-Americans to register as Democrats?
Yeah, that's a very important question that you're asking. I have plenty of thoughts, specifically because it's about registering as Democrats, right? I think one of the things that we need to do is we need to have those really hard conversations within our family members about politics, right? And culturally, we stray away from these conversations because of, family. It can cause family drama and things like that, and also just people lie on different sides or different places on the political spectrum. But particularly for young API folks, there is data that shows that they vote with their colleagues versus their family because of those cultural and political divides. And so we really need to have the conversation with our communities. And I also think that young API people see themselves like reflected in the Democratic Party, but that's not necessarily the same for older API, our elders. And we really need to engage with our elders, right? And because they're being left out of the conversation and they're being left behind. And when we're talking about, building a world for all of us, that includes our elders too. So we have to have those conversations. I don't know if you want to jump in, Jess.
Yeah, so in addition to what Amanda said, I think it's also important, and it's not necessarily that it's something that AAPI Forward has the control over as of yet, because we are a small and new organization, but I think having just accessible material in the languages within the communities is very important. Like having more Tagalog info sheets, or if it goes into the I'm not sure what the other languages are called, because I know the Philippines has like over 100 different languages and different dialects. But if we're able to just at least tap into
the national language, the accepted national language.
Correct. Like just have something that they identify with.
Right.
Like when the communities identify with something, they are more inclined to at least hear it out more, right? Because it's something that they're more familiar with. So creating some sort of familiarity will help engage these conversations and just help people pay attention more.
Yes. And how does the AAPI, either the Dems or the Forward, recruit new members?
Yeah, we, AAPI Dems Caucus hosts community events, and sometimes that is like, hosting it within small businesses in the community or with local community partners like AAPI Forward. We also, we're online as well, so we hope to, gain following online by people signing up to our newsletters, and they can sign up to become a member as well. So yeah, we're always, and sometimes like, especially during election cycle, it's about, knocking on our community's doors, making phone calls and texting them. That's how we're constantly doing outreach to bring folks in.
Last word from you first, Amanda, to our audience and the AAPI out there. What do you want to say to them?
So if you're interested in knowing more about AAPI Forward, you can check out our website at www.aapiforward.com or check us out on Instagram at AAPI Forward NV.
And for the Asian American Pacific Islander Democratic Caucus, you can check us out online as well. We have a Facebook, an Instagram, a Twitter account, and a TikTok, I believe. Okay. I guess like the last word is like pay attention, right? Pay attention to what's happening in local politics, what's happening in federal politics, and talk to your family members about politics. It's very important that we're having those conversations now, right, as we prepare for 2024. And you mentioned that, we see the progress that's happening in our community with voter registration, automatic voter registration, voting by mail, same-day voter registration, when we elect officials from our community that will represent us. We have a lot of power, and it's really important that we stay engaged.
Well, Amanda and Jessica, we are out of time. So folks, until next broadcast, we'll see you soon. And I'm Sam Buban. You have a blessed week.
And I'm Esmeralda Padilla-Gould. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.